All right, welcome again, friends. And let's begin with the focus we are having on a speech made by Pakistani Prime Minister, acting Prime Minister rather, Kakar. And he was speaking at Margulla Dialogue, which is sort of a version of the Raisina Dialogue, which India has, focusing on the strategic situation, the geopolitical, geo-economic, geo-strategic situation that the nation faces. The Pakistani Prime Minister, in doing so, instead of speaking about Pakistan, for most part has almost as if in a complex spoken more about India than Pakistan itself, has badmouthed India and used words like sleeper cells for Indian diaspora. Now, this speech is interesting because in this speech, Pakistani Prime Minister is clearly seen as dissing India, almost acting as a lapdog of China. Anwarul Haq Kakar, that's Pakistani Prime Minister, speaking at the Raisina Dialogue and using those words. I'm told I am joined in by Major General G.D. Bakshi on the phone. Very good evening, sir. Very good evening, sir. And we are getting these inputs about a speech Pakistani acting Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Kakar has made. Now, I'm just giving you some points from his speech, and then you tell us what it speaks, what it tells us about the Pakistani mind and the Pakistani state and their preoccupation with India. So, for example, he has said, sir, that Quad and AUKUS are indirect challenges to Pakistan, being a strategic ally of China, and these organizations are aimed at containing China. He is saying India is flirting with the West to contain China, and despite trying since 1990s to contain China, India has failed because China has become second largest economy from being ninth at that time. Then he goes on to say that India is incentivizing conflict with China to attract technology transfer from the West. Now, I mean, how do you see these comments being made by Kakar against India? He also goes on to say Hindutva is a dangerous ideology. Indians in Western Hemisphere are like sleeper cells. They are sizable, and we saw a glimpse of that danger in Canada. I mean, he's obsessed with India instead of talking about what problems ail Pakistan, its economy, its people, terrorism. He's talking about India for most of their speech.
That is precisely the problem with Pakistan, is monumental obsession with an India that is 5 times its size in geography, more than 10 times its size in economy, and yet Pakistan not only wants to equivalence, it wants to dismember, destroy India, put it down under. And in that, the Pakistanis, they are accusing us of, causing up to the Americans and to the West. What did they do? They, in their own turn, they first, the moment China attacked India in 1962, Bhutto and gang had, made a beeline to Beijing to suck up to Beijing and become their lapdogs, their poodles in Asia. And since then, it has been a familiar story. Did the Pakistanis not try to woo the West? It is today that they are jilted lovers. I mean, they have been kicked because of their perfidy, because of their over-cleverness. I mean, they took millions of dollars from the Americans, and then they kept Osama bin Laden next to the Pakistan Military Academy, Kakul in Abbottabad, for months and months and months, in a 4-story mansion. This is the type of people the Pakistanis are. Now they have been ditched by the West. They have now decided to rent out their territory to, first they had given it to the United States of America, now to China, the People's Republic of China. They have allowed them to build a corridor through Indian territory that does not belong to Pakistan. It has no locus standi over their territory. They have allowed them to build that so-called Belt and Road through that swathe of Indian territory in Gilgit-Baltistan. And now they have the monumental cheek to call India all these names, call the Indian diaspora that is doing so well. They are the wealthiest people in any of these Western countries. You take it, especially in the United States, the highest earning, the most contributing, productive set of community, which does not involve itself in any kind of sneaky politics like the Pakistanis do. He's bad-mouthing that community which has today produced the maximum number of CEOs of Fortune 500 in the United States, in Europe. I mean, because our Indians have done well because of their talent. And now he's trying to act as a poodle for Trudeau, who's under attack. Because on his soil, they are giving terrorist threats to blow up Indian planes. If you please, if this is rule-based order, then I don't know what rules are.
General Bakshi sir, I am told we are joined in by Major Gaurav Arya, also our in-house strategic affairs expert. So I would want to go to him also, sir. I'll come back to you again. Major, this is speech interestingly made by Haq Kakar at the Margalla dialogue. Very Mariui speech. But the point is that he is insinuating almost in a complex with India. At least 10 times he mentions India is a big country, India is a big economy. And then he says Indian diaspora is a sleeper cell. Then he says that India is trying to contain China, which is not good for us because we are a strategic ally of China. What do you make out of this very stupid, otherwise very stupid speech made by someone who's an economist? He could have spoken about Pakistan's economy. He's just talking about India. Maybe written by Rawalpindi, you think? Major Gaurav Arya?
No, Abhishek, first of all, there are no economists in Pakistan, because had Pakistan had any economists, then Pakistan would have had an economy. So, you see, they've just got another approval for another tranche for, I think, some $700 million more coming that way from IMF. So that is about Pakistan economists. Number one. Number two, you see, there has to be some sort of acceptability in Pakistan. You are looking at a nation that is so highly radicalized. It is full of Islamist radicals that he has to say something. So Satya Nadella is a sleeper cell, right? And Sundar Pichai is a sleeper cell, and those dozens and dozens of Indian CEOs all over the world, who the world is so proud of, they're all sleeper cells. And can Pakistan name one person? Can Pakistan name one person? Forget about Pakistani CEOs. Can they name one Pakistani who's respected, who's not checked outside, who's not humiliated at every international airport? I mean, and the global media did not cover this news. They did not cover this news. So people know that Pakistan is irrelevant. He is speaking to his own constituency, and that's about it, Abhishek. That's about it.
Yeah, Major. The interesting bit is it's a clear case of the Pakistanis suffering from a serious case of inferiority complex, and that really comes out of the comments he's making. Almost 42 minutes of his speech, only 2 minutes on terror problem that Pakistan is facing internally, and at least 15 minutes given to India.
Inferiority complex. Pakistan is inferior, and they realize it. You see, which is why these constant comparisons with India, because they know they are inferior. Look at Pakistani YouTubers. Look at their anchors on television. Everybody is 24/7 comparing with India, knowing full well that in any comparative scale, they come out looking, horrible in front of the Indians or India. And yet they keep on comparing. So, you see, that's why I say they don't have an inferiority complex. They are inferior, Abhishek.
Right. Let me take this to General Bakshi sir again. General Bakshi sir, if you are still there, we are trying to focus on an aspect which is important, which is that Pakistan is essentially acting as a handmaiden of China, reading from a script which helps the Chinese. You think the acting Prime Minister of Pakistan would not have made that speech without actually consulting with the Chinese ambassador in Islamabad?
I would not be surprised if the Chinese embassy in Islamabad had written whole sections of his speech, dictated to him what to say. It is a sold-out nation. looking for the next dole. Do they have any modicum of independence or self-respect? This nation has lost its marvel in its monumental obsession with competing with India. We're not competing. We're trying to destroy a country 5 times its size, 10 times its economy. It has gone berserk. Look at the proportion of the speech. You know, out of 15 minutes, almost 13 minutes are devoted to India. I mean, that kind of allocation of time itself tells you what is wrong with this country.
Yeah.
This is the Prime Minister, the acting Prime Minister is the lead of a country, a so-called economist in a country that is gone bankrupt, not going. I'm using the past participle, gone bankrupt. You know, and going with a begging bowl from the United States to the IMF to the UAE, Saudi Arabia, China. China is now the biggest donor. So it has become a lapdog of China, a Chinese poodle, if you please. It must. Yes. You know, and it must.
I would want you. Yeah, sir, I would want you to just listen to what he has exactly said. We have been able to turn around the soundbite from that long speech. Just listen to Kakar, then I'll come back to you.
India is, in my opinion, flirting with the Western Hemisphere, offering itself to be the lead player with its, of course, huge population base, who can play a lead role to contain Chinese rise. When this so-called containment policy initiated, probably somewhere in the mid-90s or early 90s, Chinese economy was 8th or 9th largest economy of the world. And by the time this containment policy got its shape and got its framework, be it in shape of AUKUS or other Quad Plus, whatever the frameworks are, they have reached second largest economy of the world. So the journey of that rising is continuing. And to thwart that is not happening. And probably it's just around the corner when the dragon would be the first largest economy of the world. And as I see it, that this so-called competition is not strategic, it's more or less economic. And if it is pure in nature and economic competition, then that competition is being turned into a triumph or on a winnable option by the other side. So what are the options? To turn it into a strategic competition, to turn it into a hot pursuit option or competition? I guess the answer is no. The answer is no for the global peace and stability. And there is no incentive in this conflict for the countries like ourselves. Pakistan do not incentivize conflict. On the other hand, we feel that in region, the players like India, they do incentivize this conflict, and they want to encourage the conflict because that's where they would benefit from attracting the technological transfer, the investment part, and other engagement with the Western Hemisphere. If there is no strategic competition between these two great powers in terms of United States and China, why there would be a preferential treatment with the Indian Union? People would quote that they have got huge population anyway. Well, Africans have a huge population as well. There is around 1.4 billion people residing on African continent.